Today on Poison Plant Corner, I want to talk about poison plants that we are all very familiar with. It is the poison triplets of poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. Let's get into it. And I want you to know that the entire time that I'm recording this video, I'm going to be having the song Poison Ivy by the Coasters stuck in my head. Poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac are all members of the same plant family, and they all produce the same chemical irritant called urushiol. And urushiol is what causes an allergic reaction in about 85% of the population. So what is actually happening when people are exposed to this chemical and they get a rash is contact dermatitis. This is an allergic reaction. So this is an oily chemical, so it is very sticky. You can get a rash or an allergic reaction from contacting with the leaves directly. You can also get it from being put into contact with tools or clothing that have touched the plant. The allergic reaction can happen up to a couple of hours after exposure, up to 5 days after exposure. Now, I know this plant is really common. A lot of people have a lot of experience with getting this rash, but it can be really nasty. And especially if this plant is burned, like we've been talking a lot about poison plants in wildfires, if this plant is burned, you can get the blisters in your mouth, your throat, and your nasal passages if you breathe it in, and it can cause breathing problems in your lungs. One cool thing to note, which I don't know that I really fully understood, is that if you get a rash from poison ivy, you cannot then give that rash to someone else. It is not a bacteria, it's not a fungus, it's not contagious in that way. It is an allergic reaction, and you cannot give an allergic reaction to someone else. Now, if you still had a little bit of oil on your skin that managed to rub off onto someone else, then yes, they could have an allergic reaction as well, but this oil actually absorbs pretty quickly into the skin, so you're not likely to pass your poison ivy rash onto anyone else. So I think a lot of folks who maybe grew up in the country or grew up around camping may have heard this leaves of three rhyme to warn you about the plants to stay away from, but that is only helpful with poison ivy and poison oak. Poison sumac has clusters of 7 to 13 leaflets, so I don't know how you figure that out. And to be honest with you, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, like, I do love nature. I'm pretty good about plant identification. I like to know what trees are. I like to know what flowers are. I love to be able to identify different plants, but I am really bad at identifying poison oak, which is mostly what we have here in California. And the reason that I'm really bad at identifying poison oak, in my defense, is that in our area there is just a ton of blackberries, and blackberries look exactly like this. I mean, once you see the plant as it's a little bit bigger, you can kind of see some differences. Poison oak doesn't have spines or little thorns, and blackberry does. And obviously once it gets the berries, I can tell, but I am pretty miserable about identifying poison oak, which is why I stay very close to the trail and I wear long pants. So yeah, the best thing that you can do for yourself to keep yourself safe from getting these very painful allergic reactions, which can include rashes, itchy bumps, blisters, swelling. This can get really nasty, and some people have really severe reactions, which can require people to seek medical attention, in which case they would give you steroids to calm that allergic reaction down. But the things that you can do to protect yourself: wear long clothing, be sure to wash your hands and clothing thoroughly after you've been through an area where you think there might be poison oak. Wear closed-toed shoes, and the same kind of precautions that you would take to protect yourself against getting a tick, I think would work well for poison oak poison ivy and poison sumac. But a really interesting thing about these plants and the chemical that they produce is that not everyone is allergic. So there's about 10 to 15% of the human population that is not reactive to urushiol, that are just not reactive to the chemical. So they're not allergic. So they can walk through a field of poison oak, poison ivy, or poison sumac and just be just fine. So that's everything I know about these plants. I would love to hear your stories about encountering them. Are you allergic? Are you not allergic? And do you have that song stuck in your head?